Already a lot for me in that one blurb. And let's just say everything really is bigger in Texas. Okay. Oh god. Welcome to my first ever YouTube video, guys. Hello. How do people start their first ever YouTube videos? I don't want to get into a whole spiel about who I am because I'm guessing the only people who are going to see this for now are my friends who already know me. Hi guys. So I will just dive right in. There's a glare in my glasses. What a wonderful month of reading this has been. I have found so many new things. I have discovered so much about myself as a reader. I've discovered so much about the romance genre as a whole. So that is going to be the focus of today's video. The contemporary romance genre. Those brightly colored, badly designed covers that you see on the shelves, most likely in the section that says book talk romances. A little bit of background. I have been on a journey since, I'm gonna say, the later part of 2025. I have been trying to read as much romance as I can, intersecting multiple genres, historical romance, romantasy, which I've liked in the past, to try and find a romance that checks all of my boxes. So what I believe I'm looking for is a romance that is fun and entertaining, well written, and mostly realistic. I'm not saying everything has to be like based in reality, because I think what could be fun about romance is like it's literally romanticized. Like it doesn't have to be realistic per se, but specifically I mean with the steamy scenes. I mean with the smut. If you're here from my Substack essay that I wrote like a few months ago now, I think, the majority of that essay was about how modern authors cannot write good steamy scenes to save their lives, pretty much. Like it's either weird or boring or weird and boring, much like the characters. And that's another thing that I really am looking for. I love character-driven books. So many characters just fall flat for me because they're weird and boring and not fun. So I'm looking for something fun, well-written, and fun and well-written. I guess that's all. Is that so hard to ask for? Maybe. We'll see. Started strong. And I shouldn't say the entire month of February because this has actually just been in the last week and a half. I have blown through so many books. This month I have read 12 books, which is a lot for me. I didn't even meet my yearly reading goal last year, which is 60 books. I think I got to like 55. I needed 5 more and I couldn't. It was a lot. So 12 a month is a lot for me. However, half of those books were for classes. I'm an English major. I have a lot of readings, just comes with the territory. But for my personal reading this month, it was mostly romance. I read 5 romances and 1 more that I did not finish. I couldn't bring myself to finish it. Ooh, we'll see what that one is. That'll be a discussion for sure. Without further ado, the first series that I read, Lucky River Ranch cowboy romance. Guys, if you've ever been interested in those silly little cowboy books on the Barnes & Noble shelves, this is it. This is that series. There are 5 books in the series. Each book is named after one of the brothers in the family, and it starts with Cash. So first we have Cash, we have Wyatt, we have Sawyer, we have Duke and Ryder. Duke and Ryder are twins. I read Cash, Wyatt, and Sawyer, the first 3. And I will not be continuing the series. We'll talk about that later. Let's start with Cash. Let me pull up Goodreads. Let me read you the summary and then I will give you my opinions. This is the blurb. Butting heads leads to knocking boots in this wildly sexy enemies to lovers, grumpy ex-sunshine, small town, cowboy romance by Jessica Peterson. Already a lot for me in that one blurb. The summary is written from the point of view of Molly, the female main character. My dad and I have been estranged for years, but as his only living relative, it's no surprise I inherit his massive cattle ranch when he dies. Sorry, I did not mean to say it like that. I did not realize this. Anyway, something that is a surprise, the stipulation in his will, which requires me to live on the ranch and actively manage it for a year before I can access my inheritance money. I haven't stepped foot in Hartsville, Texas, population 1,000 since my parents split when I was 6. Now a city girl through and through, I never imagined having to move back to cowboy country. But I need to invest the money in my company, and a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. There's just one giant roadblock in my plan. The ranch's foreman. Grumpy cowboy Cash Rivers. I don't care how good he looks in his Wranglers and chaps. He's rude, he's growly, and he wants me gone. I'd fire him in a heartbeat, but I need this cowboy to teach me the ropes of running a ranch. We're enemies from the get-go, but turns out Cash is really good at this ranch thing. He's got strong hands, an intelligent mind, and let's just say everything really is bigger in Texas. Working alongside him leads to conversations beneath the stars. Throw in some cheek-to-cheek dancing at the local dive bar, and it all feels so right that I start to fall in love with life on the ranch. And maybe him too. But my stay in Hartsville is only temporary, and you know what they say about cowboys. They may break horses, but they also break hearts. If only Cash hadn't already lassoed mine. So, all of these books are standalones, like they're all interconnected because it's like the same family, the same town, but like you don't need to read one before the other necessarily, except the end of Cash is like the middle of Wyatt's. Those are in sort of conjunction, and then Sawyer begins at the end of Wyatt's, and Jukes begins at the end of Sawyer's. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. Let's talk about Cash. It was just okay. It was not horrible at all. The writing, not great, but overall, like, not horrible. Not at all what I was expecting, if I'm being honest. The characters needed more fleshing out, I will say. And what I mean when I say that is there needs to be a little bit more implicity, I guess. Everything was so in your face, especially with the female main character. And, like, yeah, the male main character too. It was very much like, I have commitment issues, so I can't do this, and I can't love him, and like that kind of thing. It was very much like they were telling you exactly what their issues were instead of showing it, which is my issue you'll see with most of these romance books. Like, actually, all of them, in fact. It's very much like, these are my issues, and this is why I can't do this, and I just, like, I don't love that, first of all. But it was a fine book. I will say it was very easy to visualize. There was some good imagery. There were some good moments, some cute little moments between the female and the male main character. And I do like enemies to lovers to a certain extent. It was okay. Not amazing, but not the worst. Next we have Wyatt. And Wyatt had a very strong start. I was so hopeful. Maybe should not have been. I didn't have high hopes going into it, but once I read the first scene, I did have high hopes, and then no longer. Let's read the summary for Wyatt. The blurb says, roping horses leads to riding cowboys in this sexy friends to lovers, fake dating, lessons in seduction romance by Jessica Peterson. Wyatt Rivers is the perfect no-strings hookup. A cowboy Casanova who rocks a Stetson, looks smoking hot in his Wranglers, and never rests his head on the same pillow twice. He's exactly what I'm looking for. If only Wyatt wasn't also my best friend. I'm back in my hometown of Hartsville, Texas for a few months while I wait for my dream job to start thousands of miles away. While I'm here, I hope to end an epic dry spell in the bedroom, preferably with a local cowboy. If the rumors are true, they really do ride harder and stay on longer. Why is that in the summary? Whatever. Wyatt and I have been best friends in 2nd grade, and I've been in love with him for almost as long, but he's as wild and untamed as a colt that can't be broken. Not to mention, totally out of my league with his good looks and heartbreaker reputation. Then I get to thinking, since Wyatt is such an expert, why doesn't he teach me the ropes of how to find a hookup? He begrudgingly agrees, and a little fake flirting suddenly leads to fake dating, which leads to real kissing, which leads to real, well, everything else. Now I want so badly to be Wyatt's last rodeo, but I'm leaving town, and even if I wasn't, I'm not sure Wyatt would ever change his playboy ways. I know cowboys can't be tamed. Apparently, neither can hearts. Interesting. Very interesting. On the surface, all things I love. I love friends to lovers way more than enemies to lovers. Well, depends. But especially when they've been like long time best friends. And it says they've been best friends for like 20 years. They grew up with each other, they were neighbors. I just like that fell flat in the book for me because there were very few examples of that. The book starts with a flashback scene to right after the boys' parents die. The boys' parents die when they're like in their teenage years. Very tragically, they owned the ranch that's across from the main ranch from Cash's storyline. It begins with a scene where Sally has come back to Hartsville, I guess like on a college break or something. She's comforting Wyatt and they're hanging out and then they go for a swim and that's when Wyatt realizes like, oh my god, I love her, but he doesn't tell her. And then she like moves away for college again and so then they just like they never talk about it, but she also feels the same. And so when she comes back right before she leaves for her job in New York, they like spend time together and then they start the whole like fake dating thing, which also is not one of my favorite tropes. I don't know. I just like, really? Like, you're trying to tell me you guys didn't see the real relationship coming after months of pretending to fake date? Except it's never months. It's never months. It's like 1 month max. And I just, that's another complaint I have, which I will touch on later because all of the books do this. And I think I'm realizing one of my main issues with contemporary romance, even if it says slow burn, it's never a slow burn. Except, like, it does make sense for this book because they were best friends for 20 years, but we didn't really see that. The only scene where we saw them, like, being best friends is that beginning scene of the flashback when she comes back after his parents died. I really liked that. And the writing in that first scene was also really great. I mean, not like amazing, but like for a romance book, really great. And so I thought the whole book was gonna continue like that, and it just didn't. But still, I did end up liking it better than Cash's. And so that brings us to Sawyer. Disclaimer, this was my least favorite, and hence why I will not be reading the rest. Wait, I think it has a higher Goodreads score than the others. Oh no, they're all about the same. I was gonna say, if that had a higher score, I was gonna be like, maybe I'm just a hater. But nah. This one was just straight up not for me, honestly. But let's read the summary and see if it's for you. Dirty Dancing leads to a chance at forever in the sizzling single-parent found family small town romance by Jessica Peterson. So the found family trope, I don't hate. I think it's very sweet and wholesome, but the writing style needs to reflect that. It needs to, if you're gonna say found family, that also needs to be implicit. It can't just be scenes of them like spending time together and building love. That sounds so dumb. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it can't just be based off plots. Once you read this, you'll see what I mean. It was just like, it didn't completely match up for me, is what I'm saying. Okay. By the way, all of these summaries are from the point of views of the female main characters in the stories. So this one, God, what was her name? Fuck, I forgot her name. I should have, like, taken notes and written this down. Anyway, as a recently divorced single mom, I have zero interest in flirting with guys while on a rare girls' weekend trip away with my sisters. I just want to have fun, celebrate my new job, and listen to live music at a honky-tonk. But when I literally stumble into the most gorgeous guy ever on the dance floor, those plans go up in smoke. Growing up on the barrel racing circuit, which I had no idea what that was, I'm not immune to the charms of cowboy. But this particular one is hot as hell. Sawyer's got a mustache, some sexy tattoos, and a very filthy mouth. Which, yeah, that actually really did bother me when I was reading. Needless to say, we end up naked in his swanky hotel room. It's the best sex of my life. And the way Sawyer treats me like a queen, let's just say a girl could get addicted to that kind of adoration. Good thing he'll always just be a one-night stand I can look back on with a smile. I'm rebuilding our life from scratch, and I need to focus on my 3-year-old daughter and the dream job I just landed. Imagine my surprise then when I move to Hartsville and run into a tattooed cowboy with an endearing daughter of his own. Now Sawyer wants more than the occasional playdates between our girls, but the closer we become, the more determined this sexy single dad is to keep me forever. As much as I'm falling for Sawyer, I'm terrified. I've been down this road before with my ex, and I wonder if I can trust this cowboy. Will he rope the moon for me? Or is my heart destined to be trampled all over again? This book also did the thing where they were like, well, especially the female main character was like, these are my issues and this is why I can't be with him and blah, 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 blah. Like, not, like, very much telling us her issues. She's literally telling us she has commitment issues and why she has commitment issues and she never wants to be married again. She doesn't, it's like one of those things where she doesn't realize that relationships don't have to be horrible. And then, like, at the end, she's like, so you're telling me you won't be mean to me? And you're telling me that we can love each other and I am your equal? Like, I understand having trust issues, and like that was her thing. Like, she had major trust issues, and so she was worried that like if they started dating, it was just gonna end up exactly like her ex-husband, who was like horrible to her. And I just like, is that like, there is some realism in that, and I understand, but I just like could not get on board. I don't know, it was something about it that just really pissed me off. And so it felt like while the writing got better in Wyatt's, Sawyer's was very much not my thing, and also bad writing. So needless to say, I will not be reading the next two. Also because Ryder is my nephew's name, and so that's just absolutely not happening either way. Even if I did like Dukes, I just wouldn't. Anyway, that was the Lucky River Ranch series. Overall, these three books, not the worst I've ever read, but also not the best. Another thing that I did not enjoy was I didn't realize like it was, well, I guess I didn't really think about it. I thought that it was going to be a little bit more like historical cowboy, or even just like 60s, 70s, 80s, old town, like that kind of southern vibe. Not Morgan Wallen, Blake Shelton, like God, it completely took me out of the story when I was reading, I think, Wyatt's. They were like, and then Morgan Wallen came on and we started, and I was like, oh, God, I don't fucking want to hear about Morgan Wallen. Oh my God, I hate Morgan Wallen. Renee, if you're watching this, Renee's my sister. She loves Morgan Wallen and I fucking can't stand the dude. I'm very much on Hayle Williams' side with that. Like, he pisses me off. So, yeah, that bothered me. Whatever, that's neither here nor there. That is the Lucky River Ranch series by Jessica Peterson. Next, what did I read next? Okay, so after those three books, I read The Irish Goodbye by Amy Ewing. This one pleasantly surprised me. Actually, I quite enjoyed myself. And you know what? This one is rated less than the Cowboys series on Goodreads, which I just don't agree with. I don't agree. Okay, the blurb. It's hate at first sight when a jilted Irish chef returns home to Inishmore. Oh my God, that is such a fucking tongue twister. Jesus Christ. Girlies with speech impediments, beware. Let me try again. It's hate at first sight when a jilted Irish chef returns home to Inishmore and immediately clashes with a mouthy American tourist. And you know what? I read this because it was available at the library. And I have purposefully never read any like American goes to Ireland and finds a husband romances, because that just feels a little too real. I just like, I get uncomfortable with that whole scenario because I love Ireland and I love going to Ireland, but I'm absolutely not going to Ireland to find a husband. And to be fair, like, she wasn't either, but the way that these books are portrayed, I just like, it's very much, maybe it is a little bit too close to home, like the American girl's obsession with Ireland, and I'm just like, that's me, sorry. And I just get uncomfortable. But this one was actually pretty good. Let's read the summary, shall we? Cordelia James was once at the top of her game, a renowned street photographer with a massive social media following, gallery showings in Chelsea, and a lucrative book deal. But after the sudden death of her father, Cordelia can barely force herself to leave her apartment. That is, until she sees an ad for a summer gig at a cozy cottage on Ireland's picturesque Inishmore Island. Cordelia is on a plane before she can talk herself out of it. The moment she steps off the boat, she crashes, literally, into Niall O'Connor, a grumpy local who's just returned home to Inishmore from Dublin. Niall is nursing a broken heart and trying to patch up a broken life, and he has no time for posh American tourists. The more Cordelia's and Niall's paths cross, the more they make each other's lives hell. But as with all rivalries, their hatred is about to reach a tipping point. and it's going to heat up their cool coastal nights. Featuring a lovable band of quirky supporting characters, The Irish Goodbye is a steamy, emotionally gripping tale of love, passion, art, food, and finding where you belong. So, all things I love. I like a good enemies to lovers. I like hate at first sight. I think that could be fun. I was pleasantly surprised. The writing was different from the cowboy romance series, and let me give you guys examples of writing that I don't like, actually, because that might be a little bit helpful to see where I'm coming from. I don't like when authors say things like sometimes I will read a romance, especially romantasy. It's not like, I don't know if unprofessional is the right word, but I'm just like, why would you write that? Like, oh God, something that pisses me off and this is when authors go, what the actual fuck? And like period in between each word. That bothers, it's so cringe. It's so cringe. And that bothers me so bad. I'm like, you don't need to you don't need to write that out. Like, it's just unnecessary. So anyway, this book did not do that. The writing was good. There were sweet, likable characters. All of the side characters I love. There could be a little bit more fleshing out with some of the characters. That's just gonna be the theme with all of these though. Like, these are short books and they're very plot driven, which that's the thing. I feel like romances should not be plot driven. Romances should inherently be character driven, and that's where a lot of these fall flat. The only thing is, something I wrote as a note was maybe forgettable. Like, I think in a year, if you asked me to recall the plot of this book, I'd be like, I can't. Like, I literally can't remember what that was about. But like, I had fun in the moment. It was a pretty solid book. I had fun. There's one more that I read, but there was one in between the last one and The Irish Goodbye that I just could not finish, honestly. And that one was The Romance Rivalry by Susan Lee. I picked up this book because it was recommended to me by another booktuber who I love. I love her content. I love her opinions, and we have a lot of the same tastes, and I trust her mostly. This is only the second time she's let me down. But she did say she was biased because Susan Lee is like a good friend of hers, so she did admit it. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I did not did not enjoy this. And I got maybe 20% of the way through. Maybe not even. I think I got like 13% of the way through. And then I was like, yeah, no, I don't like this. I just didn't like the plot. I did not like the writing style at all. Just very much not my thing, but it might be your thing. Let's see. She's read every romance except her own. Irene Park loves romance novels, so much so she's made a career of them as an online book reviewer with a massive following. But Irene's real life dating story? Non existent. So, when she starts her freshman year of college, she sets her sights on finding true love using the only one thing she really understands: romance book tropes. If only it were that easy. Which already, like, what does that mean? Like, I found myself to be very confused by her goal here. Anyway, enter Aiden John, Irene's online book review rival and biggest nemesis. When Aiden challenges her to see who can find love by trope first, he becomes the one person standing in her way to getting everything she wants, both professionally and personally too. So when the competition takes an unexpected turn, forcing the two of them to partner in the ultimate trope, fake dating, Irene is not prepared for everything she believed about romance and Aiden to flip on its head. As Irene tackles the challenges of college life, struggles to figure out what she really wants for herself, all while trying to win the race for love, Irene realizes the answers may not be found in a romance novel. Happily Ever After seems so easy on page, but for Irene to find her ultimate HEA, she'll have to get her nose out of the book and become the main character of her own story. Okay. Again, enemies to lovers. Like, fake dating, I don't. Which, the last book I read is also mainly fake dating trope. Don't like. College rom-coms, banter for days, A-plus pop culture references, books about loving books, like, all okay things. I just like, ugh, guys, I couldn't continue with this. Like, it was just so unrealistic. I don't know, it was fucking, like, nuts. Just ultimately not my thing. The writing was not great. but I mean, give it a shot if you think that sounds interesting to you. It's not my thing. Anyway, what do we have next? Okay, so the last book of the month is Faking Game. If you are at all in the romance sphere online, you have probably heard of The Faking Game. It is book number 1 in the Billionaire series. Wait, is that literally what, I think that's literally what it's called. I was making that up, but I think it's literally called the Billionaire series. And full disclosure, I was hesitant because guess what? I don't like billionaires and I don't like billionaire propaganda. However, I very quickly realized that that does not matter for this book because they did not really mention like his work life very much. Like it was a few times oh, he's at work, oh, he's at this investor meeting, but because the female main character was also wealthy, she's a model. It's not like she was working for him and then he's this big boss man taking her away from the trenches. It wasn't like that. So I was okay, whatever, because it's not explicitly mentioned. I can just imagine, I can put that to the side and just imagine him to be a millionaire instead of a billionaire, and I can ignore that. And it was relatively easy to ignore. So at least it has that going for it. And I will just say right now, not good. It has, oh god, guys, just not good. However, it was entertaining enough for me to keep reading it. Like I said, if I am going to DNF a book, it's gonna be within the first 20% of it. If I get past 20%, I will feel like I've already invested too much time and I just need to finish it. So that's kind of what happened here. I was oh wow, this is really awful, but I'm already this amount in, so I might as well finish it. Okay, let's read the blurb. West Calloway is rich, arrogant, and my brother's best friend. Now we're faking a relationship in public while he gives me dating lessons in private. Again, this is a fake dating trope. They started off already kind of liking each other. And so it's really? You think you're gonna start fake dating and nothing will come of it? Be for real. I know it's only to drive the plot forward and that's what that is, but come on, not my favorite. Anyway, summary. When a stalker forces me out of my apartment, my brother insists I stay somewhere safe, in his best friend's legendary estate. With a tall, handsome, and frustrating man I once had a silly crush on, while he never liked me. But then, Wes suggests we fake date to send a message. I am taken and well protected. I agree on one condition. He helps me practice real dating. I don't know how to date, and Wes doesn't do love. It's perfect. Soon we're practicing it all in secret. Dates, kissing, sleeping in the same bed. The only rule? My brother can never find out. Wes learns what I like, buys me gifts, praises me, and helps me to stop people pleasing. Maybe I'll even ask him to help with my virginity too. But the way he's looking at me now, it's not part of any lesson. And when he touches me, it feels like he's forgotten this is just practice. Okay. I don't think I fully realized what this was before I started reading it. It just, not my thing. Not my thing. One thing that was driving me crazy the entire time was how, she's afraid of this guy who is stalking her and they can't figure out who it is and she's really confused. And then when they finally do figure out who it is and what is happening, it nothing ever really happens with it. You're expecting it to be this whole big thing at the end of the book, and it would be a really big thing to figure out who it was. Maybe you're thinking it's one of the security guards who are closest to them, and it just never ends up really being much of anything. It's her older brother is the head of their family's fashion company or something like that. It's he's the head of this company. He's been in negotiations to buy this other company, but the other company doesn't really want to sell out, and so they keep on having all these meetings that he has to go off to. And I guess the other company wanted to throw him off, so they start stalking. They send someone to stalk his sister, but it's not really a stalker. And it just you expect it to be this whole big thing, but it doesn't really affect much of anything except for her being afraid. And then so a big thing for her is she's just such a people pleaser, and like she doesn't know how to say no, and it's affected her like relationships, and she's never been in a serious relationship, and she doesn't have any experience. And that was very explicit. And I've already talked about this. I don't like when their issues are so in your face and they're telling you what their issues are instead of just like showing you and giving you examples. I'm just like, oh brother, you really have no other way of showing that. And then the other thing that I had a really hard time getting over was the whole thing with her virginity. And she's 25 and he's like not much older than her. And so it's not about that per se. It's just like, I didn't realize this was going to be a virgin heroine romance. Maybe if I did, I would have not picked it up because something about that just like icks me out completely. I don't like that at all. It's something about like purity culture and like he's being so careful around her. And like it's probably scary to be somebody's first ever, especially when they're older. But I mean, like, oh god, it was just such a thing, and I don't know, that threw me off completely. Like it took me away from romance that they were having, their love story. This was just a book where the plot was written so that they would have opportunities to be around each other and have sex. The steamy scenes, and first of all, the steamy scenes were plentiful. Like it was every other page, they were just like all over each other, and it was like long too. It was like these long scenes, these long drawn out scenes. And so that's my thing with forced proximity. If you don't do it right, it very quickly becomes that. Like I don't have a problem with forced proximity if it's like a couple scenes, but the whole thing is forced proximity. And I think that just bothered me maybe. But if you think you'll like it, go ahead. Again, not completely horrible. That sounds very backhanded. But I mean, like, I think the writing style could have definitely been worse. It was just the characters being insufferable and being like, oh, but I can't have a boyfriend because I have all these issues, and oh god, it just pissed me off so bad. I was like, girl, you're 25, get a fucking hold of yourself. Anyway, that was Faking Game by Olivia Hayle. So that brings us to the end of the month. I will probably make a separate video with the books that I've read as an English student for my classes and for the whole month of February, because these were only the romances for February. I read more books that were not romances. But I just thought it could be fun to keep within the theme of Valentine's Day, of love being in the air. And you know what? I had very low expectations, I think. Like, I thought, I especially thought that the cowboy romances were gonna be written much worse. And, like, Sawyer's was not good, but, like, Cash and Wyatt's was perfectly, like, fine. Okay, those were all the romances I read in the month of February. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. If any of you were curious about any of these or romances in general, I hope I made my own biases clear, that this is not a genre I'm usually familiar with. And you know what? I'm still on my journey to find a romance that checks all of my boxes. I think it's possible. It's out there. And if anybody has any recommendations, please hand them to me. I would love to see them. Anyway, I will be back soon. Bye!